The first time that your license will be impacted after getting a DWI is with the administrative license revocation hearing, so long as you apply for one. Here's what's really important to know. You have to apply for the administrative license revocation hearing, or ALR hearing, within 15 days of the arrest. There's a lot of rules that are kind of malleable in the law. This is not one of them. You only have 15 days to apply. Now, this is not part of the criminal process. This is only part of the administrative process. And this is where an administrative law judge decides if there's admissible evidence. They look at the admissibility of the evidence to say whether the government has proved its burden that your license should be suspended. So when you think about this, the factors that may impact it are the officers that made the stop, what other evidence is there, what warranted the actual DWI charge in the first place, just a number of things. The other thing that's going to impact it is whether you gave a breath sample or a blood sample. Now, that's all very specific information that your attorney can argue when they're at the administrative license revocation hearing, but also realize that if you don't apply for the administrative license revocation hearing, your license will automatically be suspended 40 days after the form. It's called you'll get a DIC 24 and a DIC 25, part of the papers that you're gonna get after your book. Those will determine the date where the 40-day clock starts if you don't apply for the ALR for the suspension to actually take place. In a lot of cases, will the license get suspended at the ALR hearing? I'd say there's a moderate chance of the license being suspended at the ALR hearing, but that doesn't mean that your license gets suspended and you can't go on the road, period, after that. It just means that we move on to other strategies to keep your license intact. And those other strategies include getting something called an occupational driver's license. Now, an occupational driver's license, think of it as a limited form of a license. You can't just drive anywhere, everywhere, all the time without any restrictions. There's two primary types of occupational license. One is an essential needs occupational driver's license, and the other is a deep lung device occupational driver's license. The deep lung device sounds super fancy. Really what it means is you got a breathalyzer in your car and you have to blow into it every so often while you're driving. So I'm sure that everybody has heard about this at one time or another. It actually has to be installed in your vehicle. Sometimes you may have to pull over and actually blow into the device to make sure that there's no detectable alcohol in your system. Now, let's differentiate between these two licenses because there's two different procedures for petitioning the court for these licenses. For an essential needs license, we really have to go in there and say, hey, look, Your Honor, there's a lot of really important things going on. They have to take their kids to school. They have to go to work. They have to do a lot of things. There's an essential need. So think about it in really common sense, practical terms. Is there an essential need for you to still operate a motor vehicle? There's one tiny string that comes attached to the essential needs license, which is you have to keep a log of where you're going, and you have to provide specific routes and details on how you're going to travel and get to certain places. There's also the possibility that you can have a deep lung device requirement regardless of the type of occupational license that's granted, and that's what you have to show at these hearings. Now, the deep lung device occupational license is somewhat easier to get, but it does come with strings attached because you have to have the deep lung device installed in your car. There is an additional monthly fee to have that deep lung device installed in your car. So just remember that it comes with strings attached, and there are additional costs anywhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200, $250 a month. You're going to be paying for the deep lung device to actually be installed in your car and maintained by one of these deep lung device or ignition interlock operators. Important to keep in mind here also is that this process, whether it's the ALR hearing or the occupational licenses, those are not covered in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure or the Texas Penal Code. They actually have nothing to really do with the underlying criminal offense that we're going to be working to defend against throughout this entire time. These are all administrative processes. So remember, we're not going in there with the administrative law judge saying, hey, Your Honor, my client is not guilty, don't find him guilty, just suspend this whole case. That's not what the administrative law judge is there to do. In fact, they don't even have the statutory authority to say whether you're guilty or innocent or seat a jury or anything like that. This is purely an administrative procedure. So keep that in mind, especially as we go through more and more of these videos and these courses to explain what the crime of DWI is. There's really two different procedures going on. One is administrative, it largely just impacts your license, and the other is the criminal side of things, which can also impact your license, but is decided by a different set of judges, or a different judge, and the jury process, the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, the Texas Penal Code, and a bunch of other things. So lastly, we're gonna wrap this video up by talking about insurance. And I get this question a lot, so I will say, let me preface this by saying I am not an insurance agent. I have never sold insurance. I have nothing to do with the insurance industry other than I help my clients when it's a tangential issue to their case. So a couple of really important things about insurance. If you're granted an occupational driver's license, one of the requirements is that you have SR22 insurance. Now, a lot of people think that SR22 insurance is this whole separate policy. I have to go get brand new insurance. It may be true that you have to go to another carrier because your carrier doesn't provide SR22 insurance, but the SR22 insurance is just an endorsement that gets added on, and there is an additional cost to your insurance to maintain that SR22 endorsement, and you'll generally have to have that for the entire period that you have your occupational driver's license for, because technically in the background, your overall driving privileges will be suspended, but the occupational license will provide a mechanism for you to still drive and travel. Again, that's why we call it kind of a driver's license light. And at the end of that period, when your license is suspended on the books, you can remove your occupational driver's license or get rid of it and get rid of your SR22 insurance as well. So just remember, it's an endorsement that goes along with your insurance that you must have to get your occupational driver's license, and there's an additional cost. Now, after the fact, let's even get past the criminal case, past the license suspension and everything. What happens to your insurance rates overall? Well, again, caveat, disclaimer here, I'm not an insurance expert, but generally your insurance rates are gonna increase fairly significantly for the foreseeable future. So I would say it's probably fair to budget in and expect 40 to 60% increase in what you're paying in your insurance premiums overall. So keep that in mind. There's strategies like if you have a family, maybe you go get your own insurance plan for a while, maybe you shop around a little bit for different insurance products. That's all possible, but just know that there probably is gonna be an increase to your insurance after the whole process is done. Now, quick recap of what we've talked about. We talked about the administrative license revocation hearing. You have to apply for that within 15 days of the arrest for the alleged DWI. We talked about the types of occupational driver's licenses. Now, no matter what, there is a way to keep you on the road so long as you qualify for the occupational license. The only way that you won't qualify to stay on the road is if you had an occupational license for certain offenses within the past 10 years. So we're talking like multiple DWIs that may disqualify you from an occupational license, but other than that, it is possible to keep you on the road. And lastly, we talked about insurance. What does it mean for insurance? Yes, there is gonna be an increased cost for an SR22 endorsement, and yes, there probably will be increased insurance rates after the whole process is over. So that's what the license process looks like, the driving privileges process looks like in Texas. I know you'll have to shell out a little bit of extra coin if you happen to have to get an ignition interlock device installed in your car with a deep lung device occupational license, with an SR22 insurance endorsement, and potentially with insurance after. But that's a good overview of what will happen, what the process looks like. If you have any other questions about the DWI process, or any other crimes for that matter, whether it's high-level felonies at the state or federal level, or your general misdemeanors, please reach out to us, give us a call. We have offices in Colorado and in Texas, and we're happy to be here to help our clients. This is what we do. We're criminal defense and trial lawyers. Thank you, and please check out our other videos in this series so that you can better understand DWIs in Texas.